Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin and Prez. This episode 370. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Prez. That is @_Presidente on Twitter. Prez, how are you doing on this Friday morning? Victory Friday.
Victory Friday, indeed. I'm fucking tired, man. That game had me so hyped up. I didn't go to sleep till like after 1 a.m. I'm too old for that kind of shit.
Welcome to every day of my life, Prez. Being up till 1, doing nothing, being a piece of shit. It's a big part of what I do.
Wow.
Sure.
Very aggressive.
Just gambling.
Just being a degenerate scumbag.
Oh, man. All right. Well, before we get started, I do have to make a few announcements. The first thing that Strickland has an Instagram. Check that out. That is @Strickland on Instagram. We are posting all kinds of new content on there. The Strickland also has a YouTube channel where you may be watching this podcast. If you have not done so already, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment. That'd be a huge help to us. Strickland also has merchandise, which you can find on our website at www.thestrick.land. There's a link that'll take you to the merchandise store, and you can find all kinds of cool stuff on there. T-shirts, sweatshirts, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we've got it. Again, you can find that on our website. And the Strickland also has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There's a $6 tier that gets you access to Strickland's podcast that I host every Friday with Prez. You also get access to Takes from Obvious Bozos, our newest podcast that is hosted by Andrew Steele, aka Doug, along with Zach Blatter. You also get access to the Strickland Discord where the conversation never stops. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strickland Roll, my solo pod where I rant and rave about the Knicks even more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Miranda, one of the best in the business. And now you also get access to Strictly NFL, our weekly NFL podcast that is hosted by Constantine Metricos and Jeffrey Rasmussen. There are further tiers. There's a $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and $100 tier. That's come with a variety of additional benefits, like listening on pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly today, whether you choose to subscribe or not. And it's possible without you. And none of this would be possible without Bet Online. It's playoff time, and the road to Vegas goes through San Francisco and Baltimore. Bet Online is your number one source for playoff football odds, stats, trends, and lines, with everything from point spreads to hundreds of player performance props. Head to Bet Online today to stay updated on all the action. Bet Online, the game starts here. So the Knicks won another game yesterday. They're 9th in a row. They are now, I believe, what are they? Are they 13-2, 14-2 since the trade? I don't know. There's something in 2 since the trade. It's really good.
I think 14-2 since the trade, 9 in a row, and 15 of the last 17.
Well, there you have it. Yeah, they've been awesome. They were awesome again yesterday. It's kind of becoming boring almost to say it, but I mean they still find ways to even impress and not just impress, but find different ways to win. I mean, yesterday they did not shoot the ball well at all. They were terrible from the field. But they just absolutely beat the shit out of the Pacers on the glass after the first quarter. After the first quarter, the Pacers actually had 7 offensive rebounds in that quarter. They had 2 the rest of the game. They didn't have a single one in the second half.
And people don't really realize, we're the best offensive rebounding team in the NBA, or have been 1 or 2 for the whole season. Since they got Siakam, the Pacers are number 3. So, this is a good offensive rebounding team with Pascal, and it didn't fucking matter.
Yeah, didn't matter. Knicks just dominated on the glass again. Just incredible performances across the board. Basically, everybody that got rotation minutes in this game contributed. Deuce had a huge. He had I think 14 consecutive points at one point in the second half. That was huge for the Knicks. Brunson, what can you say? 40 points. That's all you can say. Precious Achiuwa, fucking amazing. Hartenstein, awesome. Josh Hart, horrible first half, incredible second half. Dante DiVincenzo apparently is extremely happy to pick up the usage slack. It was just an impressive
I have some Dante hot takes that are not really related to this game because he was clearly gassed and it was just bad shooting luck. But man, if he keeps this shit up, like he's a lot. He might be a lot closer to like Desmond Bane than to a lot of these like run of the mill shooting guards in terms of like his ability to scale up his production, and including like shots off the dribble, including shots inside the arc.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm there yet, but I see the vision. I definitely see the vision. I mean, it's like you see it. He's taking threes from any and all angles, all distances. Really, really impressive. And then look, I got to say this. I think Thibs, obviously, he's getting a shit ton out of this team. The level of buy-in he's getting, all that stuff is really, really impressive. I think he's coaching it well as well. I mean, like last night, the Knicks only had one guy go over 40 minutes. That's Precious. Everybody else was, I mean, Brunson only had 37, Hartenstein 38, Hart 37. So like he's, I think yesterday, actually in the first half, Josh Hart was brutal in the first half, like really, really bad yesterday. And Thibs actually closed that half with Deuce McBride and said Deuce McBride got more minutes in the first half than Josh Hart did. Like, so this is not just about Thibs getting buy-in, which is super important, by the way, not trying to dismiss that at all. It's maybe as important as anything else you can do as coach. But he's getting incredible buy-in from this team. You can see it, like you can hear it in their interviews and everything after the game. Like you have Brunson getting emotional, Dante, and all these guys are just like, they're saying the right things, and you can tell how much it means to them. But he's getting this buy-in, and he's also now pushing the right buttons. And like I was just really impressed by his coaching performance yesterday. I've been really impressed, really since the Brooklyn game, where I think his rotations have improved drastically. And it's unfortunate, obviously, that the Knicks have injuries right now. But even within having these injuries, I think you're seeing a lot more from Thibs. And I do think this is a roster that is the most Thibs a roster could be. And they have depth in places that I think he has felt, and maybe rightfully, and not maybe rightfully so, he felt they were short in, both on the wing and in the front court in a lot of ways. But you add, obviously OG, who wasn't even playing yesterday, but you add him into the mix. And then you had Precious, who has been, I mean, nothing short of a revelation, to be honest. And all of a sudden, you've got all these options in the front court. And, I still have a lot of questions about Thibs's versatility and willingness to make adjustments in game quickly, especially when it matters, when he has like a full deck, especially. But for right now, I mean, he has really done a good job. And, look, I'm not going to pretend that I'm Tom Thibodeau's number one supporter, but right now you can argue this, and he has a very legitimate argument for being a coach of the year candidate again. Like this is like an unbelievable job I think he's done, especially after the trade. And, talk about development, talk about all this stuff, like guys like Deuce McBride, this guy did not play for the majority of the last two seasons. And now he's got the confidence to really just let it rip from three. Obviously, the ball handling, shot making inside the arc, although he had a couple of nice drives yesterday, needs to come along. But like that's development. Like his
he didn't shoot threes like that in college. No. He was one of the best college players in the country, and he didn't shoot threes like that. Like I was talking about this with some draft people on Twitter. Like this guy changed his game in the G League in Westchester, and every time he's been called upon to come and play situational minutes, he's at the minimum giving them defense. The shooting didn't come around until this year, but there were a lot of indications that like that shooting would come around eventually. And like you're right, like you gotta credit obviously Deuce himself for staying ready. You gotta credit Thibs for helping just get buy-in into this role and helping show the players the level of preparation they need to have. Credit the Westchester Knicks, credit the front office, because like Thibs talked about this actually yesterday after the post game, or in the post game, that the front office they know how to identify certain kinds of players. And we've talked about this before on the pod, whether it's like free agency acquisitions, trades, draft acquisitions. Like there's plenty of talented players, for example, who are in the G League, who are really talented, who don't lock in over there. Like top 10 picks, first round picks, second round picks, who just coast, because you can coast if you're even a little bit talented in the G League. And that's what they do while they wait for their chance to play on a big team. But, credit to Deuce and Jericho Sims for not coasting, for continuing to improve their games, right? Like, they just have certain kinds of players, and Thibs is just so good at getting buy-in once they come to the big squad, right? And Precious is a perfect example. His like Knicks arc, he already has a fucking Knicks arc, even though it's been like a month. He didn't know what the fuck was going on. He came from Nick Nurse terrorism ball, where the only goal was just get blocks and steals, and there was no positional discipline anywhere. And now this guy has been called to play the 5. He's been called to play the 4. Yesterday, he played, like you said, he played the most minutes. Not only did he have 8 offensive rebounds and 4 stocks, he also had 3 deflections, which led the team. And, a loose ball at the end. We dove fucking under Pascal Siakam's ass to try to get the jump ball. Like, this guy learned the assignment and has locked in. And I asked some Raptors fans, like, after that clip of him and iHeart just screaming at each other, like super hyped. Like, I was like, was he like this in Toronto? Because every other time in New York, he's very stone faced. And they were like, no, he wasn't. And it just shows you like the kind of buy-in he's gotten, in his role, which is simplified, right? Like we know he's undersized. We know he's athletic. We know he's a bad decision maker. So what does Thibs do? Stop making decisions, get put back, boxed out.
He's not even making bad decisions now. Even when he has opportunities, like when he has the ball in his hands, and you're like, oh my god, here we go, like, and he's just like, oh okay, I'll just pass it to Dante. I'll just give it back.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like if you have doubt, give it back or dribble once and dunk it. If you can't dribble once and dunk it, give that shit back.
But it's just crazy.
Him, like, be able to, like, in a pinch, like, dribble a couple times and just before handing it off and stuff like that. You're right. Like, and then on the other end, on defense, like, it's funny because this kind of happened last year with Sims, right? Who's also an undersized athletic center. Like, in some ways, both of these guys, I know you've talked about it with Sims and with Precious, like, they're not bad rim protectors, but they're very good on the perimeter. Just their quickness, agility, and size, like, they're like power forwards out there almost. Fast guards can blow by them, but like for teams like the Pacers who don't really have fast guards, like, you could put them on Pascal or on other players and they'll fucking lock up. So having Precious out there at the 4, like he's locking the fuck up, right? Like Miles Bridges, Lauri Markkanen, Pascal Siakam. He's fucking done his thing on all these guys. And like, this is a guy who's still, familiarizing himself with the schemes and his teammates and all that. So like, the buy-in right now is just crazy from the new guys, from the guys like Deuce who have been in the system for a while. Everybody's really on the same page. It's wild, man.
Yes, the Knicks are, by the way, 15-2 in the last 17 games since this trade. They have a top 7 offensive rating in that. Their 7th offensive rating, 119.6, which, for the record, would be better than even it was last year for them. And their defensive rating is tops in the league at 104.5. They're the number 1 net rating in the league, 15.1. Number 1 in offensive rebound percentage. Number 4 in defensive rebound percentage. They're number 1 in overall rebound percentage. Turnovers have gone up a little bit, although they have come down the last couple of games. Again, they're 24th in turnover percentage over that time, but they have climbed all the way to 29th in assist percentage as well. So they got that going to them. Honestly, not a joke, but like their passing has been better of late. So I don't really care about that number that much. And
I do want to say one thing about the passing real quick that also came up yesterday. One thing that, that I've tweeted about is like teams don't like double teaming unless you're like a big dominant wing or like a big dominant center. Like guys like Halliburton and Brunson, they don't really get a ton of hard double teams in the regular season, even though that would be effective. teams really don't do that till the playoffs. But yesterday, and these past few games, really, but especially yesterday, the Pacers threw double teams out of right before the inbound. They threw double teams at half court. They threw double teams. They mixed up when and where the double teams came from. And, we know that like one of Jalen's weaknesses, he prefers to just dribble out the double teams rather than pass out of them or try to split them. And I feel like this period without Julius and him getting these reps in, and his other teammates, whether it's iHeart or Precious or the guards when it's guard screens, which he sometimes calls for on purpose. Like this is good. This is good because we know Thibs isn't really one to like experiment, and Jalen, he likes to play his game at his pace. So I think this is like a blessing in disguise period if guys come back healthy later, because Jalen's been amazing. That's like the one weakness in his game on offense right now is he is a little slow to pass out of that pressure. But you could see as the game went on, he was like, y'all want to do it? Fucking fine. I'll do it. I'll do that shit. And he kept doing it. And whether it was like swinging to do, like there was 1-3 where he got doubled, swung it, and the ball came back to him at the end of that was the Josh Hart assist.
Yep.
So he's trusting the pass a little bit, and so shout out to the Pacers, I guess, for this little training session for Jalen Brunson on his way to 40.
Yeah, but yeah, like all these guys, like you mentioned, Precious, Deuce, obviously. This is like, I mean, Precious is really, really impressive because that happened in season. I mean, he's been here for a month, and the level he's playing at in the last 6 games is out of his shocking, honestly. But yeah, I mean, and then you just have this entire team that's peaking in their like mid-20s to like late 20s at the right time. And I mean, look, this team is fucking loaded right now, and they're gonna get OG back, they'll get Grimes back, they'll get Randall back, hopefully in the next who knows, but hopefully in the next month. Like this team is, and your point about blessing in disguise, like I think it is, because I think that he's had to push Precious into places that maybe he didn't want him to. Like he probably doesn't want to use. He probably didn't want to use him at the 4 initially, but then because of injury, he kind of has. Yeah, he has to. And all of a sudden, you're like, holy shit, this guy he's actually much better at the 4 defensively. Maybe we're like the best defensive team in basketball when he's at the 4 with the rest of these guys. It's pretty wild. And
this happens to coaches all the time, right? Like this is how the Warriors discovered the whole Draymond Green thing back when David Lee got hurt. This is how Thibs in the past has discovered like point Joakim Noah and all types of other shit. So like it is not uncommon, but it can be hugely significant.
Yeah, and it can be extremely valuable for Thibs and the Knicks when they get into the playoffs, that he has been forced to develop and look into these things, and like he has options on his disposal. And like, look, even all the, like, he's pushing the right buttons, and his group seems uniquely suited to like actually justifying a lot of his choices that are maybe counter to what what I think at times, and what a lot of people believe, we need to have more spacing and all this stuff. But like the Josh Hart lineups have kicked ass against like the right opponents. When they've played bad teams, those lineups have basically just bullied them off the floor in the fourth quarter to a high degree. Like the non-Brunson minutes that he has at the start of like, the second and fourth quarters, those lineups, especially when OG's playing, have managed to like win their minutes pretty significantly just because they don't let anybody score. Like that lineup is like nuts. It's, you got like Precious at the 5, OG at the 4, Hart at the 3, Deuce at the 1, and then you either have Grimes or DiVincenzo at the 2. And like those lineups are just not giving up points because they might not score. It's a good chance they're not going to score, but they also aren't going to let you score. And like he's finding ways to utilize this team's depth. So like, look, the Knicks offense craters basically when Jalen Brunson's not off the floor. And that's the case. That's been the case almost all year. And that's definitely been the case after the trade. Even if Randall's on the floor, like the offense just completely craters. But he has found a way, or found something at least, where you're like, okay, maybe it'll crater, but so will yours, because these guys are just going to be able to lock you up for 3 minutes at a time. And he's doing a better job of buying minutes for players, of using that depth to alleviate minutes loads and all that type of stuff. I just can't say enough. I think he's doing a really, really good job. And, I still stand by, like, I have no interest in giving him a contract extension right now. I want to see what the playoffs look like. But if he's ever going to succeed in the playoffs, I think this is a group that it might be the best possible potential outcome for him, because yes, you've got enough star talent when this team is healthy, assuming Julius plays fine in the playoffs. Between him and Brunson, you have enough shot creation, I think, to match up against most teams. Yes, I do think the Knicks need to get another guy. They have the option to get another guy, so that's still available to them. But like, those two guys are obviously playing at a really high level, as offensively as stars. Defensively, there's not a weak point in this rotation at this point, at this stage. And like, honestly, you can even, I think Jalen's been like probably one of the better starting point guard defenders in the league this year. I'm not trying to say he's amazing.
The Chargers offensive foul stat.
Yeah, like he's getting charges. He's getting charges. He's drawing offensive fouls. He's just competing. I think his rotations have been better. I think he's rebounding at a pretty solid level given his stature. So you're getting good value from him on that end, and then on top of his offense, obviously, Randall's defense has probably been the worst among the starters, but he also has had a lot better moments post trading for OG, and his rebounding is valuable, and then he gives you whatever he gives you offensively, which it outweighs whatever he maybe leaves on the table for you at times on defense. And then the rest of this team, who's your worst defender after that? Is it like
Julius?
No, but Julius your worst defender. But I'm saying, aside from him and Brunson, your worst defender is I don't know, maybe Dante at times, or
no, every other single player is a plus defender, full stop. It just
and even with Sims last year was brutal, and this year to start, I thought he got put in a
he's been much better
too, but he's been a lot better since he came back in and started getting minutes again. And they are just getting so much right now from everybody. That speaks to, obviously credit to Thibs getting the buy-in and the commitment, and a credit to the players who are buying in. And on top of buying in, they're fucking good, they're talented. So that's a pretty dangerous combination. And the front office deserves a ton of credit for, look, when the trade went down, I don't think I was alone. I was really concerned about the shot creation. I still believe that to be true contender or whatever, they're going to need another guy. But I was really worried about the load that Randall and Brunson would have to carry. And they still obviously have to carry quite a load when they're playing. But he has found a way to get their minutes down to around 35, 36 with this group. He has found a way to win the minutes that they're setting, which is impressive. But this is also just a credit to the front office and honestly the organization, the condition, the state of the organization in terms of they have consistently pulled the trigger on deals at times and in moments that seem to make sense. Obviously the Cam Reddish one didn't work out, but Derrick Rose, they're 11-14. They pulled the trigger on that trade. They go off to finish that season, right? Last year, they made the decision to bench, Cam and Rose and Fournier at a very specific point in time when they were 10-13, which is when the season turned around. And then this year, and then they trade for Hart, obviously, as well at the deadline, which takes them to another level. And then this year, the team is 17-15. They were fine. I think that but I mentioned this several times throughout the early part of the season. Something was not right. Something was off. It didn't feel like not that they did. I don't know. It was weird because the effort, I didn't ever watch them and feel like collectively their effort was dog shit. But there was something that was not quite together about the team, and I think that's, maybe that's hindsight looking back. But it's not hindsight when hindsight, it is hindsight, but it's fucking true. Something was off. And whatever happened, I don't know. I don't think it was a case of RJ and quicker in the locker room, like sowing dissent. But I think there are a lot of guys on this team that are unhappy about their role, unhappy about what they were being asked to do on a nightly basis. Josh Hart clearly was not a huge fan of like, hey, you played the 4 every night now. Like, I don't think he enjoyed that. We know Quentin Grimes expressed his displeasure with his limited role. I think a guy like Dante has made it pretty clear. I thought he made it pretty clear at various points that he was being a good soldier, but of course he wants to play more minutes than he was playing. Hartenstein will never say anything, and I'm sure like, and him and Mitch's relationship seems very genuine. So like maybe he didn't even think about it, but like this is a starting caliber center who was getting, 20 minutes a night maybe. And like all of a sudden now you make this trade. Deuce wasn't even playing. I don't think Deuce was in the locker room either, fucking bitching about his role, but like Deuce wasn't playing, right? Like, so you have all these guys, like this weird thing going on with minutes. All of a sudden the trade happens. And sure, even after the trade, I'm sure not everybody was happy with their minutes. We know Grimes definitely hasn't been. But like, there's just way stronger buy-in. I think you're seeing, not forget buy-in. I think this team is bought in, but like, I think you see guys playing for each other. I think the fact that
the roles are just aligned better. Like you're right. Like it's not like RJ and these other guys were not bought in. Like it was never an effort thing, but it was a situation where like the team had accepted these are the roles, right? This is RJ's role. He's gonna drive a bunch. He's gonna miss a bunch. It's weird. I'm rooting for RJ. These guys are friends with RJ. They're rooting for RJ. But it is a role that it didn't fit well, but it was accepted by everybody. And that's a weird fucking situation, especially when it's a human being who you actually like. If you have a coworker who's a nice guy, but isn't the best at their job, it's kind of weird. Like, and you rely on them. It's kind of weird. It's not a personal thing or anything like that. It's not, anything animus, but like now when the roles are aligned and like you have OG who does his thing, he gets the ball when he needs to get the ball. He doesn't really take risks, and he's really good when he decides to take action on either end. Like that role fits. So it's a little bit easier for you to trust your teammates, for you to make that extra rotation, to make that pass out of a drive when you don't have a shot, if you know everybody's role makes sense. And that's the difference. And we've said this before about Thibs. Like he will assign a role, and that will be a role. Like that is what it is. He's not flexible in that respect. When he gets it right, it's a fucking home run. When he gets the role wrong, it's a huge problem.
It's not even
and right now he's just knocking it out.
But it's not even about him getting the roles right. It's that these guys are all like bought into those roles. Like I think that Quick was bought in. I think RJ is bought in, but for RJ especially, whatever he believes and maybe is and whatever is his best role, that was never going to be available to him in New York. And he's not as good at OG at doing the things that Thibs wants from that role. Like OG is just a way more impactful piece in that role. And that's the reality. So like that's an upgrade. Precious Achiuwa is giving them stuff at the 4 that like if Obi ever played the way Precious is playing right now, I think 100% he would have tried Obi at the 5, at Randall at the 4, but he didn't, and he never trusted him to. And what Precious is doing defensively right now is special. Like he's been really fucking good, like to a point where I'm just like, is this real, or is this like the stuff that Raptors fans were saying that like he's awesome for a couple weeks, then he'll forget how to play basketball for a while again too? We'll see, but it's been amazing to watch him lately, and if nothing else, it's just another tool you have at your disposal if need be. And like, again, like I just think this front office has done a really good job of, I don't know if they are, we'll see if they're right or not, to have stayed as committed to Thibs as they have. But once they made the decision to keep Thibs, they've done a really great job over this last couple seasons of reshaping the roster at critical points and getting him guys that fit into what he's trying to get done on the floor and can help take this team to the next level. Like last year, obviously we talked about the rotation changes he made, but then you get Josh Hart at the deadline, which took that entire team into another level. And then this year, it's like, I'm sure. I mean, it was mentioned, obviously, that Fred Katz mentioned in his piece, but like the Knicks, like there were guys that were not happy about their roles and various things. And I'm sure that they could sense that. And I'm sure that they could maybe feel that manifest on the floor in certain ways when they're watching the group to start this year. And they made a trade that like obviously wasn't easy for them. I now in hindsight, you're like, well, man, anybody that was doubting that trade, what a fucking idiot. But like it was not an easy trade for them to make. And they pulled the trigger, and like it's not an easy choice to make, but they did it, and they're reaping the rewards for it. And they've improved the team's chemistry for sure. And like now, this team also has depth at positions and with player archetypes and physical profiles that they just did not have. They did not have them. So this trade, I mean, this organization right now, just in general, is like super aligned in ways that are impressive. And I think that's manifesting in Thibs having his longest and probably best shelf life possible that he could have at this point in his career. So that's like, they're supporting him and he's getting players that buy into everything that comes with being, playing for Tom Thibodeau. The front office obviously has done a really good job of upgrading the talent consistently, and the players deserve all the credit for look, we can sit here and talk about development and credit, and I do think Thibs deserves credit for that. I've always thought that. I think he's a good development coach. And honestly, like at this point, if you're doubting that he's a good development coach, I don't know what to tell you. Like the proof is in the pudding. But like he is, he's developing guys. Sure, the front office is doing a good job of finding guys that are undervalued and blah, blah, blah. But like the players themselves obviously deserve a ton of the credit for what we're seeing. And they've been fantastic. Like it takes a village. And I don't know, like before the season, if you told me the Knicks were a contender, I would have laughed in your face. If you told me after the OG trade that they would then become the best team in basketball by basically every measure of that, I would have been like, I think you're jumping the gun, but I can see them being extremely good. But yeah, I mean, like they're in a position now where they have to really view this as a opportunity to contend for a title this season. Like they're in the fucking ballpark, and I do think they need to make a trade at the deadline. I do think even at full strength, they need somebody else who can create a shot. I hope that they go find that. But considering where this team was, even 18 months ago to now, for that to be kind of like the thing that you're like, well, we just need to get this done before the playoffs, speaks volumes to where this team has come from, in the last 18 months, 2 years, whatever, but like also just since this front office took over and this coach took over, he deserves all the credit as well. And the players obviously too, like guys like Julius and Mitch, who have been here the entire time, and even predate this regime. RJ and Quick weren't here anymore. Obviously Brunson, Josh Hart, his impact, all these guys have been part of turning this around. And it's like the Knicks have a chance to do something special this year. This team is really, really good, and everybody deserves credit for that. Players, coaches, front office execs, whoever.